Every night, for 300,000 years, your ancestors slept out in the open. No walls, no locks, no weapons that could stop a full-grown predator. Lions, hyenas, wolves, saber-toothed cats built to end a human life in seconds. And somehow, night after night, generation after generation, they woke up. This is the real reason why. On paper, humans should not have survived this. We're slow. We have no claws, no fangs, weak jaws, and terrible night vision. Compare that to what actually shared the landscape with early humans. Cave lions the size of a small car, dire wolves hunting in packs of 20, saber-toothed cats able to take down a bison in one strike. A sleeping human should have been the easiest meal in the entire ecosystem. Quiet, motionless, completely defenseless. And yet the record tells a strange story. Mass predator attacks on human camps are shockingly rare across history. Something protected us that had nothing to do with strength, speed, or teeth. It starts with fire. The earliest confirmed evidence of controlled fire goes back roughly 1 million years, to a cave in South Africa called Wonderwork. Long before Homo sapiens even existed, an earlier human relative was already doing something no other animal on the planet could do, controlling the one force nature itself feared. And that fear is not something animals learn from experience. It's wired into them before birth. Laboratory animals that have never once seen a flame in their lives will still flinch and back away at the smell of smoke. That fear runs so deep in the animal brain that a single lit fire works like an invisible fence around a sleeping camp. A campfire creates a rough 30-foot circle of safety. Inside that circle, predators will not come. Outside it, the danger was very real. Predators that would happily stalk a herd of grazing animals would not cross that line of firelight. Early humans didn't just discover a way to stay warm. They discovered a weapon that kept working even while they were completely unconscious. And that fire circle did something else too. It pulled the whole group into one tight, defensible space every single night. Anthropologists studying the Juhoansi people of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth still living something close to this original lifestyle, found that nighttime conversation around the fire looked completely different from daytime talk. During the day, most conversation was practical logistics. At night, it shifted almost entirely to shared stories. That matters here for a very physical reason. A group clustered tightly around one fire, alert to each other, bonded by ritual and story, was a far harder target than scattered individuals ever could have been. The fire wasn't just light and heat. It was the anchor point that kept the group's most basic defense system, each other, within arm's reach until sunrise. Here's something else predators never figured out. A wolf's hunting instinct is tuned to the exact movement pattern of a fleeing deer. A lion's strike is calibrated to the size, shape, and smell of animals it has hunted 1,000 times before. Humans simply do not fit that template. We don't smell like prey. We smell like wood smoke, sweat, and whatever we last ate, layered under scents that have no equivalent anywhere else in the natural world. To a predator's nose, that isn't meal. That's unknown. And unknown, to an animal whose life depends on avoiding injury, reads as dangerous by default. On top of that, humans stand upright. Bipedal posture is one of the oldest threat displays in the entire animal kingdom. It's what gorillas do to look bigger. It's what bears do to intimidate a rival. A human standing at full height doesn't register as prey to a predator's brain. It registers as a threat nobody has time to study up close. There's a darker reason predators learn to keep their distance, and it's one humans built themselves. For roughly 2 million years, our ancestors were apex hunters, and we were extraordinarily effective at killing anything that threatened us. We hunted mammoths into extinction. We wiped out cave bears, dire wolves, and saber-toothed cats across entire continents. The predators alive today are the direct descendants of the ones who were careful. The bold ones, the lions and wolves that got too close to a human camp, were killed off, generation after generation, until caution became pure instinct. In 2019, researchers at UC Santa Cruz played simple recordings of ordinary human voices near wild mountain lions. The pumas fled almost instantly. Some of them abandoned a fresh kill mid-meal, walking away from calories they desperately needed just to escape the sound of a human talking. That fear isn't taught to each individual animal, it's inherited. It's written into their behavior by 10,000 generations of ancestors who learned the hard way and passed the lesson down. Sleeping out in the open sounds like the ultimate vulnerability, but human sleep is not nearly as defenseless as it looks. Your brain cycles in and out of light and deep sleep throughout the night, and during the lighter stages, it keeps quietly monitoring everything around you. Scientists call this the Sentinel function of sleep. A twig snapping nearby, a shift in air pressure, an unfamiliar smell drifting into camp. These small signals can pull a sleeping human toward full waking far faster than any familiar background noise ever could. The humans who slept too deeply, who failed to wake for real danger, simply didn't live long enough to pass on their genes. Over hundreds of thousands of years, our species became lighter, more responsive sleepers than almost any other large mammal on Earth. Built to react instantly, not just to rest. And early humans were almost never actually alone. Predators understand groups intimately because their normal prey lives in groups too, and they know a group is a far riskier target than a lone straggler. A predator hunts by isolating the weak one, the individual cut off from the herd. A camp full of sleeping humans isn't an easy meal, it's a tripwire. Wake one person with a scream and the entire camp reacts within seconds. For an animal whose entire survival depends on avoiding any serious injury, that kind of chaos is a gamble that simply isn't worth taking. A predator doesn't have health insurance. A broken leg or a deep bite wound in the wild usually ends in a slow death by starvation, so every single hunting decision is really a calculated risk. And humans consistently failed to look like a risk worth taking. None of this means humans were ever untouchable, and the rare exceptions actually prove exactly how this whole system works. In 1898, 2 lions near Savo, Kenya, killed dozens of railway workers over roughly 9 months, becoming one of history's most infamous predator attacks on humans. But these were not ordinary healthy lions. Both were unusually maneless, and one had severe dental damage that made hunting its normal prey nearly impossible. In India, the Champawat tiger is blamed for an estimated 436 deaths in the early 1900s, until a hunter finally discovered the truth. The tiger had been shot years earlier by a poacher, shattering 2 of its canine teeth. It could no longer hunt the animals it was built to hunt, so out of sheer desperation, it turned to the only prey it could still physically catch. Nearly every well-documented case of predators targeting humans in history follows this same exact pattern. Injury, starvation, or habitat loss severe enough to override 10,000 generations of deeply inherited caution. This inherited fear didn't just keep individual humans alive night after night. It quietly reshaped entire ecosystems around us. In regions where mountain lions actively avoid areas with human activity, deer populations grow unchecked, vegetation gets overgrazed, and the balance of the whole surrounding food web shifts, all because one species learned, a very long time ago, to be deeply afraid of us. We didn't just manage to survive the world's deadliest predators through sheer luck. Fire, scent, posture, sleep, numbers, and a few 100,000 years of brutal natural selection turned us into the reason they learned to stay away in the first place. Fire wasn't the only tool that flipped the odds. Somewhere along the way, early humans learned to fire harden the tips of wooden spears, turning a simple stick into a weapon that could actually wound something many times their size. A single human with a sharpened spear couldn't take down a cave lion alone, but a group of humans, working together, coordinating in ways no other predator on the landscape could match, absolutely could. That cooperation is arguably the real secret weapon here. Wolves hunt in packs, but human packs could plan, communicate abstract ideas, and remember which strategies worked from one hunt to the next. Over enough generations, that mix of fire, tools, and coordinated defense didn't just protect individual sleeping humans, it slowly rewired how every large predator on the continent viewed our entire species. That history is still sitting quietly inside every large predator alive today, whether it's a mountain lion in California or a tiger in the forests of India. The instinct to avoid us wasn't installed recently. It was carved in over hundreds of thousands of years, one cautious ancestor at a time. Which is also exactly why the rare exceptions, the injured, the starving, the ones pushed out of their normal habitat, stand out so sharply against everything else we know about predator behavior. They're not proof that the system fails. They're proof of how strong the ordinary rule actually is. It's worth pointing out that none of this is ancient history locked away in the past. It's still playing out today. Every time someone pitches a tent in bear country or falls asleep beside a dying campfire in a national park, the same inherited caution that kept your ancestors alive is still running through the nervous system of every large predator out there. That's why wildlife experts still tell campers to keep a fire going, to sleep in groups when possible, and to never approach or feed wild animals, because feeding an animal is one of the fastest ways to erode 10,000 generations of hard-earned wariness in a single encounter. Break that ancient agreement enough times, and you're not dealing with the same predator your ancestors negotiated with anymore. So the next time you picture a human alone out in the wild, asleep, unarmed, completely still, seemingly helpless, remember what's actually happening underneath the surface. 10,000 generations of hard-won survival are running quietly in the background. Whether you're aware of it or not, you were never as defenseless as you looked. You never really were.